Ever feel completely, utterly burned out by the endless daily grind? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Today, in this explainer, we're going to decode that feeling of modern alienation, and we're doing it using a really masterful and, honestly, surprisingly prophetic diagnostic report written by philosopher Hannah Arendt way back in 1958.
Section 1. The Urge to Escape, Sputnik and the Desire to Leave Earth.
Okay, so to truly understand our modern crisis, we actually have to travel back a bit, specifically to the anxiety and awe of October 1957. The Soviet Union has just launched Sputnik 1 into orbit. Now, while the entire globe is practically gasping at this incredible triumph of engineering, Hannah Arendt had a very different, deeply uneasy reaction. She didn't just see a scientific milestone. She saw a symptom of a much deeper, much more unsettling crisis.
She summed up her core concern like this. She called it the wish to escape the human condition itself. Arendt saw all this collective excitement to literally leave Earth as humanity's troubling desire to escape its own biological and worldly reality. It's wild, right? This profound unease is actually what prompted her to write her magisterial 1958 book, where she asks a deceptively simple question. What are we actually doing when we, as active beings, live our lives?
Which brings us to Section 2, Labor, Work, and Action, the pillars of the Vita Activa. All right, let's break down what Arendt calls the Vita Activa, the act of life. She essentially divides human activity into three fundamental pillars. First up is labor. This is pure biological necessity. It's survival. Think of a standard 9-to-5 gig or just doing your daily chores around the house. It's cyclical, it's impermanent, and it's totally tied to our physical bodies. Second is work. Now wait, this isn't your office job. For Arendt, work is the fabrication of a durable world. Imagine a carpenter building a structure meant to last for generations. It has a clear beginning and a clear end. And finally, we have action. This is the absolute highest tier for her. It's where political revelation and plurality happen. It's citizens debating in the public square, acting directly between people, completely without the intermediary of physical things.
To kind of ground these abstract concepts, let's use a really simple, tangible metaphor. Picture a wooden dining table. So labor? That's the endless cycle of cooking, eating, and washing dishes at that table. When you're done, nothing permanent remains, right? Work, on the other hand, is the carpenter who actually crafted that durable wood to outlive the meal, providing a stable backdrop for our lives. But action? Action happens when people sit around that table together, connecting, debating, and really revealing who they are to one another. Action doesn't leave a physical trace, but it creates the memories and relationships that can literally change the course of our lives.
Moving on to Section 3, the rise of the social, the collapse of the common world. So to understand why we feel so totally disconnected today, we need to look at the historical spaces where these activities actually lived. The ancient Greeks, for instance, very clearly separated life into two distinct realms. First, you had the private realm, or oikos, which was the household. This was kind of a dark space of hidden biological necessity. It was driven by force and inequality, and it's where labor happened. Contrast that with the public realm, the polis, or city-state. This was the space of visible freedom, equality, and persuasion. The idea was, once you mastered the necessities of the household, you could step into the blinding light of the public square. And that is where pure action truly happened.
Well, the absolutely crucial point here is that in the modern era, this vital distinction totally collapsed, and it gave rise to a sort of monster that Arendt calls the social realm. The social is this modern hybrid where private household concerns, things like economics, wealth accumulation, consumption, have completely invaded and dominated public political life. So instead of spaces for genuine democratic action and debating the good life, our governments now function less like democratic forums and more like massive corporate boards engaged in national housekeeping. They're just making sure the metaphorical chores are done rather than asking why we're doing them in the first place. We're essentially expected to just conform to economic models rather than stand out as unique individuals.
Which takes us to Section 4, Reversing the Hierarchy, the Tragedy of Modernity.
Now, you might be wondering, what were the historical triggers that caused us to lose our shared table? How did we enter this state of world alienation? Well, Arendt maps out three massive events. First, globe mapping. By mapping every single corner of the Earth, we actually shrank the wild and began treating the planet as a closed, calculable resource. Second, the Reformation. This event stripped huge populations of physical, stable property, turning it into fluid, transmittable wealth. This effectively forced people to become pure wage laborers. And third, Galileo's telescope. By looking through it,
Humanity suddenly realized that our own senses could lie to us. That realization made us distrust our everyday earthly experience in favor of cold, cosmic calculation.
These massive historical shifts built our modern tragedy by literally flipping the ancient pyramid completely upside down. See, the ancients prized action as the highest possible goal, with work right beneath it and labor at the very bottom. But look at our modern reversal. Today, labor and basic biological survival sit at the very top of our priorities. Work comes in second, but really only if it serves consumption. And action, true political freedom and unique expression, has basically been completely lost, crushed at the bottom.
As Arendt starkly puts it, we have almost succeeded in leveling all human activities to the common denominator of securing the necessities of life and providing for their abundance. It's a heavy thought. This reversal transformed us into what she calls a politically passive society of job holders. We now define ourselves almost entirely by our jobs. We build things not to last for generations, but literally just to use them, throw them away, and quickly replace them. It's just endless churn.
Let's jump into Section 5, Arendt in the Modern World, Echo Chambers and Artificial Intelligence.
Applying Arendt's incredibly prophetic 1958 philosophy directly to our current modern crises is frankly eye-opening. Just look at the gig economy and AI. Arendt warned about the exact crisis of meaning we'd face if technology ends up automating all our labor. Think about it. If we are a society of job holders who've completely forgotten how to engage in true, durable work or meaningful political action, what happens when we have no actual jobs left? We risk falling into this profound existential despair, left with nothing to do but blindly consume mass media.
And this framework completely reframes our digital lives too. We love to think that social media platforms like TikTok or X or these vibrant public squares of democratic action, like a modern polis, but Arendt's framework reveals what they really are, a hyper-concentrated social realm. These aren't spaces for diverse plurality. Actually, they're isolating engines of consumption built on algorithmic conformity. Our behaviors are tracked by statistical models, leaving us deeply, deeply isolated, even though we're supposedly constantly connected.
All right, Section 6, Reclaiming the Active Life, Remedies for a Fragile World.
So, we've diagnosed the burnout. Now let's find the cure. Arendt fully acknowledges that humans often avoid true action because, honestly, it is inherently terrifying. Stepping into the public square to start something totally new is unpredictable. You absolutely cannot control the outcome. And it's irreversible. You can't just hit undo on your deeds. But Arendt reminds us that humanity actually discovered some brilliant built-in structural cures for this fragility. Here are her 2 political remedies. Step 1, we remedy the irreversibility of our actions with forgiveness. And she doesn't just mean a warm, emotional sentiment here. She means a profound political act that unbinds us from past mistakes. It breaks the automatic chain of revenge so we can actually start anew. Step 2, we remedy the unpredictability of action with promises. By making agreements, covenants, and constitutions, we build these stable frameworks of trust. These promises anchor us safely in a totally uncertain future.
And this brings us to Arendt's ultimate message of hope, a concept she calls natality. It's essentially the human capacity to bring something entirely new into the world. It is the spark behind a grassroots revolution, a vibrant artistic movement, or even just a radical life change. Arendt reminds us that every new birth and every new, courageous conversation has the power to interrupt those mindless, automatic cycles of labor and completely remake our human world. Let's return to our dining table metaphor one last time. To counter the alienation of our modern age, we have to do something that sounds simple but is deceptively difficult. We have to stop, step back, and truly think about what it is we are doing. We need to reclaim the balance in our lives. We need to pull our chairs back up to that shared table and rebuild those common spaces through honest, public action alongside our peers. Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question to take away from this explainer today. Take a look at your own life. Are you simply laboring to survive in a society of job holders? Or are you ready to step into the public square, take action, and begin something new?
Please like and subscribe.